Hi, I'm Marilyn, and I want to welcome you today to Exposing Grief. When we expose anything, it becomes less threatening. To expose loss and grief will provide us with some emotional control. In 2020, we laid the foundation for these conversations. We spent 12 episodes outlining how loss and grief can and does occur at any age or any stage in life. You can go back and listen to those foundational podcast episodes, or you can begin listening today as part of a journey to become more emotionally and mentally healthy. In the year 2021, it is our resolve to be more emotionally healthy. This is not something that occurs overnight or is complete after a few sessions. It is always a good idea to take stock of where we are emotionally. Part of our goal is to avoid unexpected emotional breakdowns. Life can be challenging sometimes, and awareness of emotional triggers serve to keep our lives in some semblance of balance. Today, let's spend time exploring collective loss and grief, like the kind we all felt from witnessing 9/11. The visual pictures of planes flying into towers made that loss and grief more real than it would have been had we only seen pictures of the results in a newspaper or magazine. In the Oklahoma City bombing, we saw the aftermath, which was shocking and devastating, but 9/11 was more gut-wrenching for us. It is true that some people are more affected by collective loss and grief than others. Of course, the families directly impacted are affected most, but others can have an empathy that can cause emotional trauma that has to be dealt with. This pandemic is causing that type of emotional trauma. It is also causing some deep-seated trauma due to the length of time it has existed and the magnitude of its devastation. As a nation and as a world, many of us thought this pandemic would have run its course by now, but it has not. We have been inundated with the number of deaths around the globe, as well as here in America. We have seen refrigerator trucks holding dead bodies and mass graves dug to hold them. We have heard and seen so much about death and dying that we are fatigued from all of the information. We need information to keep ourselves safe and informed, but we also need to realize when our minds and our emotions have had enough. I'm certainly not saying we need to act as if the pandemic is not real, but what I am saying is that we want to limit our exposure to the bad news that the pandemic has triggered in everyday life. If the pandemic has affected you personally, then you will want to evaluate how to manage the effects. Once you realize that you cannot change a situation, then you have to ask yourself, what are my next steps? Or sometimes it may only be one step that can be made. Of course, you will want to grieve the loss, whatever it was, whether loss of a job, a business, a relationship, or even a family member. Take time to mourn the loss, but realize that you want to survive. Initially, that may not seem like the case, but the human spirit is really strong and can overcome a lot if given an opportunity. Acknowledging a loss is the first step, and grieving the loss is the second step toward recovery and finding a solution for moving forward. History has shown us that we can collectively overcome wars, and we have collectively overcome assassinations and other collective emotional traumas of the past. We will overcome this pandemic as well. I would suggest that you write about how you feel, cry about it, and scream about it. Link arms with others and share about how you feel. Be willing to move outside of your comfort zone to try strategies that may make you uncomfortable at first. The pandemic seems like a fire, and sometimes it is necessary to meet fire with fire, even if fire frightens you or makes you nervous. What I am trying to say is that the safe way to get in touch with your emotions may not work because we are not in an ordinary fight. Would you say that the pandemic is radical? If so, then we have to be radical in our fight against it, both physically and emotionally. We do not know when this pandemic will end, but I, for one, am determined to come through it emotionally better. Won't you join me in that determination? These are my personal opinions, observations, and experiences. Be a part of these important conversations about loss, grief, and emotional well-being. Find a friend to interact with today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to visit with you next time on Exposing Grief.